Hi, my name is Zach Simmons, and this is my Chicago Bears Journal. Week 1 football is finally here, so I want to take a look at the matchup for Week 1, the Bears versus the Lions. And I'm trying to look at this not through the lens of a Bears fan, but I'm trying to give you my actual opinion on who I think can win this. Bears, Lions, what can we expect out of this game? So I want to start taking a look at Trubisky. All right, and we can't take a look at preseason. It's week 1, so we can't take a look at. We can't do what we could do like week 8 and look the 7 weeks prior, seeing how these teams actually are. The only thing we can do is just take a look at last year. We don't know how these teams are going to be. The Bears could really be something. The Lions could really be something, or both of them could just be awful. We don't know. So I want to take a look at Trubisky's stats from last year. And if you saw the video that I did with Nick on Pro Football Today, you've probably already heard these stats. But this is the collective stats, the combined stats for how Trubisky did against Detroit last season in 2019. So combined, Trubisky ended up with just shy of 74% completion percentage. Very, very good. 255 yards per game out of those 2 games. Combined for 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. The first game, he ended with a 131 QBR. The second game, a 118.1 QBR. So, obviously, Trubisky had Detroit's number. Trubisky was phenomenal against Detroit. The only game that we could say was maybe in the same realm or better than how he played against Detroit was his game against Dallas. But Trubisky looked very, very good against Detroit. And it helps that Detroit did not have a good passing defense last year. Allowed the most passing yards in the league with 4,551 yards. Yards collectively, both passing and rushing yards, they allowed the second most yards, just over 6,000 yards. Altogether, every quarterback they played against altogether allowed 4,551 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, adds up to a 98.31 QBR, which really is a pretty decent QBR. A pretty decent QBR. And Detroit's passing attack, I would say, probably got worse. Trubisky threw 1 pick. That pick was to Darius Slay. Slay is now gone. Okudah will not be playing a significant role this game. At least that's what's expected. He may have a play count, maybe kind of like what Roquan Smith had his rookie season back in 2018 in our first game against the Packers on Sunday Night Football. You might see that with Okudah in there every once in a while, but he's not going to be lining up against Allen Robinson or Anthony Miller too often. So that means both of them might actually be looking pretty decent. They're going against basically the second and third string because Okudah's not up at that first string just yet. He possibly could be by the end of the season, but not to start things out. He really hasn't looked spectacular, not like how Jalen Johnson has looked for the Bears, who will be starting. And defensively for the Bears, against the quarterbacks, against Driscoll in the first game, Blau in the second game, those quarterbacks look pretty decent. They look pretty decent. But here's the thing with that. The Bears didn't know Driscoll was going to play until Sunday morning. Sunday morning, the news broke out that Stafford will not be able to play. It sounded like he was going to be able to. And I imagine the Bears defense has some film on Driscoll just in case they went against him. But they didn't have any good film on Driscoll. All they had was some film from Cincinnati, which Cincinnati is not Detroit. 2 completely different offenses, different playmakers. So the Bears kind of went in blind, not know exactly how to go against Driscoll. It's kind of a generic defense, just trying to figure out who is this guy. Not a very good plan like they would have had if they went against Stafford. They would have known, okay, so this is what we can expect out of Stafford. This is what we can deal with Driscoll. They didn't have that. Driscoll ended up with a pretty good game. Completion percentage aside, 59% completion percentage, 269 yards, a touchdown, interception, only got sacked twice. Rushing wise, they did get 98 yards, no touchdowns. Marvin Jones was the leading receiver of that game, 5 receptions, 77 yards. However, it was Galladay who ended with a touchdown, 3 receptions, and 57 yards. Robinson definitely was the top guy for the Bears, 86 yards on 6 receptions. Montgomery only 60 yards on 17 attempts. So it really came down to the battle of offenses, which the Bears' offense was better than Detroit's offense. Trubisky was better than Driscoll, which is how Chicago won. It wasn't necessarily that Chicago's defense helped out. They did get a pick. Detroit's defense did not get a pick against Trubisky. Detroit ended up with 5 sacks, 7 QB hits. Chicago only had the 2 sacks and 8 QB hits. Mack had nothing that game. Mack had nothing. A few weeks later, they go against David Blau. Once again, they didn't have any film on David Blau. All they had was preseason film and college film. And the preseason film was from Cleveland, not from Detroit. Once again, Cleveland is not Detroit. You can't really go off of that too much. The only thing you can see is tendencies. Even then, he only played just a couple drives. So you're just getting a couple drives of, well, he can throw deep. That's pretty much all you got out of him. You don't really have a whole lot for what his style of quarterback is going to be and how Detroit is going to make that work in their system. So Blau ended up with a better game than Driscoll. 58% completion percentage, which is worse than Driscoll's. Not a very good completion percentage, but still ended up with 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, still 1 interception, finished with an 87.6 QBR, which is better than what Driscoll had. Scarborough was the leading back with 83 yards off of 21 attempts. Galladay looked amazing that game. 4 receptions, 158 yards, and a touchdown. Marvin Jones only ended up with 40 yards on 3 receptions. And Montgomery finished kind of like how he did the first game against Detroit, 16 attempts for 75 yards. But that game, it was Anthony Miller who looked amazing. 9 receptions, 140 yards. Allen Robinson had pretty much the exact same stats as the last game. 86 yards, the same amount of yards as the first game against Detroit. 2 more receptions with 8, and then also a touchdown. Bears defense did about the same without the QB hits. 2 sacks, 3 QB hits. Once again, Mack did not have any. And Detroit only finished with 1 sack and then 3 QB hits. So this pass stretch for Detroit is not going to be as good. It's not going to be as good. Their secondary is not going to be as good. If Trubisky can do what he did last year against them, I think the Bears have a really good shot. I think the Bears offense is actually going to look pretty decent. This is a better defense, probably one of the worst defenses in the league, especially against the pass. I'm expecting if Montgomery is completely healthy, they feel pretty confident he's going to be completely healthy. I'm expecting that between 15 and 20 attempt range. He had 17 and 16. I think that's a pretty good guess for what he's going to be able to do this time around, especially with no clear running back behind him. Yeah, Tariq Cohen, then Cordell Patterson, but otherwise there's not a true starting running back. I mean, Cohen's going to get some carries here and there, but for the most part, it's going to be Montgomery's job. And Robinson will be just fine against him. Anthony Miller will definitely be just fine against him. A couple things to take a look at how Mooney and Ginn are going to be looking. These nice, quick receivers and a secondary that does not look that great. There's a good chance you might see them. Jamie Collins is a linebacker. Is linebacker now for Detroit. You could end up seeing him be a factor in the tight end game. He's also been a talented blitzer. So that's another guy to kind of worry about. Their defense did get better in that regard. So the linebacking core is better than last season. But overall, I think Trubisky should be just fine against him. I think you're going to see a really good game out of Trubisky. But I wouldn't take too much out of it. He played good against Detroit last year. He played good against Detroit the year before. Does not mean that he is fully the franchise guy going forward. There's still a chance that Trubisky looks amazing against Detroit week 1, and even as soon as week 2 finds the bench. So it really depends on how he does outside of Detroit, because we know he can be good against Detroit, but can he be good going against other teams as well? Now, the injury report does not look good for both teams. Vaitai, and I very well could be messing up that name. Their starting right tackle, he is out. That adds a lot when it comes to Khalil Mack. That's Khalil Mack's side. Now, they rotate him around every once in a while, but for the most part, that is his side. That being said, you have a backup potentially going against Khalil Mack. But something that's going to help out the Lions offense, Robert Quinn is doubtful. So you have to deal with Khalil Mack, but you also have to deal with Barkevious Mingo now. Barkevious Mingo is not as talented as Leonard Floyd. So I wouldn't even say he's as talented as Aaron Lynch. So that's going to help out Matthew Stafford. Yes, he has to deal with Mack, but now he might not have to worry about Robert Quinn. But he does have to play against the Bears without Kenny Golladay. Golladay was the key the second game around. Likewise, I said 4 receptions, 158 yards, and a touchdown. Golladay went off. Now they need that with Marvin Jones, who can. He's been known to go off. But at the same time, he's also been unreliable in some cases. Some games he will look just completely amazing, the best receiver in football, and the next game he's not there. But do expect Stafford, and I do want to make mention of this. Stafford, he's better than Driscoll, he's better than Blau. He would put up better stats than those two did against the Bears. So Stafford, and Matt expect some really, really good things out of Matthew Stafford, even without Kenny Golladay. But they're going to be targeting Jalen Johnson non-stop. And why wouldn't you? You have a second-round rookie out there who's been battered with injuries. Why in the world would you not target him? But I have faith in Jalen Johnson. Given I've never seen the guy play, I have no clue what to. I don't know for sure what to expect from him. But what I've heard from camp is that he does look amazing. He has pro instincts. He doesn't play like a rookie. He plays like someone who's been in the game for many, many years. So there's a good chance you might see a pick from Jalen Johnson if they underestimate him. But definitely expect the ball to be going his way pretty often, unless he does a good enough job stopping them. Then they might look elsewhere. But right now, the Bears' defense, they're healthy for the most part. Khalil Mack is questionable, but I don't expect Khalil Mack to miss this game. I don't really expect him to take limited snaps, especially with Robert Quinn gone. I think they've just been kind of holding him out just for precautionary reasons because it's the first week. Don't really want him to overdo it in practice, but I definitely expect him to play a full game's worth tomorrow. But I do expect the Bears are going to win this one. They've done it before. They've done it before, even with going against Stafford. And I didn't put Stafford. I didn't really want to cover his stats from 2018 against the Bears just because he's with a new coordinator now. It's not the same. Now, if he played last year against the Bears, definitely I will go through his stats against the Bears, but he didn't. So taking a look at 2018 stats really isn't a very good comparison to what we can expect from him this year. The only thing we can look at is just how good he was last season. He played half a season, ended up with 1 yard shy of 2,500 yards. That means he was on pace for just shy of 5,000 yards. A 38 touchdown season, 10 interception season. He actually finished with 19 touchdowns and then 5 interceptions. Had a heck of a season. And that's just half a season. And those numbers, they're not fantastic numbers, but when you take into account that they're 8 games, pretty good numbers. And I expect him to go off against Chicago. Their defense, especially without Robert Quinn, it's not what they were back in 2018. I think they can be better once Quinn gets out there. They need that pass rush. Akeem Hicks is healthy. They didn't go against a healthy Akeem Hicks last season. Akeem Hicks is healthy. Eddie Goldman's not there. You do have Bilal Nichols, who did have one of those QB hits in the second game against Detroit last season. Ultimately, this is going to be a battle of defenses. Scratch that. Sorry. I meant to say it's going to be a battle between offenses. You're going to see the Bears offense doing a lot of good things, versus this really, really bad Detroit defense. And I think Matthew Stafford, even with how good the Bears defense is, because even if you don't promote at elite status, you have to admit they are a top 16 defense. They're definitely in the top half. I think you can easily say they're the top 10 defense. Even with that, Stafford's going to have a really good game. I expect a lot of good things out of Stafford. But it's going to be interesting without Golladay there. Where they're going to put Marvin Jones more than likely. I think you might see Marvin Jones line up against Jalen Johnson pretty often there on the left side. I think there's a very good chance of that. But that's what I have. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see exactly how this game goes. And next week, we'll go through the Week 2 matchup. I'll give a little recap on what I liked, what I didn't like out of this matchup against the Lions. And who knows, I might even have a video on Monday, just a little recap. Good things, bad things about this Week 1 matchup. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a good rest of your day.